The cold Dublin wind cut through Miguel's thin jacket as he stood beneath the dim street lamp, its yellow light trembling with every gust. The pavement was wet from earlier rain, and every step he took made a soft, tired splash. He held his battered old guitar close to his chest like it was the only thing he owned that truly understood him. In many ways, it was. Ever since he and his mother left Cebu to chase a better life in Ireland, this guitar had been the only reminder of home, of warmth, of laughter, of nights when music drowned out hunger. Tonight, the hunger was different. It wasn't for food. It was for a chance. Across the narrow street, his mother stood by the fogged window of their cramped apartment. She wore her cleaning uniform, still damp from mopping floors in the city center. Her body ached, her hands were raw, but her eyes were filled with a proud fire as she watched her son rehearse. Miguel tried not to let her see him shiver. He knew she worried enough. He strummed softly, testing the old strings. Then, with a deep breath, he began singing, "Can't Help Falling in Love." The notes floated into the frozen Dublin air, fragile at first, then slowly gaining strength. His voice was steady but full of quiet ache, the ache of long hours washing dishes, of being laughed at for his accent, of working double shifts so his mother wouldn't collapse from exhaustion. Every word carried the weight of Cebu sunsets and the sting of Irish winters. A couple walking their dog paused. A taxi slowed down. A group of teenagers crossing the street fell silent. Miguel didn't notice. His eyes were closed, his world small and bright and burning with music. His voice rose and cracked with emotion, echoing against the apartment walls and fading into the night sky. For a moment, the street didn't feel so cold. For a moment, Miguel felt like he belonged somewhere, like he wasn't just a poor Filipino immigrant trying to survive in a country that rarely saw him. His mother pressed her hand against the window, whispering to herself, "Anak, you were born for this." A tear slipped down her cheek, warm against the chill. When the last note faded, Miguel opened his eyes. His hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of what he had to do tomorrow. In his pocket was the crumpled audition pass for Ireland's Got Talent. He had stared at it for days, afraid to believe he deserved a chance. Afraid of being rejected. Afraid of failing his mother after everything she sacrificed. As he looked at their small apartment, its peeling paint and flickering bulb visible even from outside, he felt something shift inside him. Maybe tomorrow could change everything. Maybe tomorrow, Ireland would finally hear him, not the poor kid from Cebu, not the immigrant working night shifts, but the singer he had always dreamed of becoming. Miguel exhaled, a cloud of breath rising like a prayer into the dark Dublin sky. Then he tightened his grip on the guitar and whispered, "For you, Ma. For us." Miguel stepped onto the Ireland's Got Talent stage with legs so shaky he thought they might give out beneath him. The bright lights blinded him for a moment, far stronger than the faint yellow glow of the street lamp he practiced under every night. The stage felt enormous, too clean, too polished for a boy who came from Cebu's crowded alleys and Dublin's cramped back rooms. He clutched the microphone with both hands, hoping the judges wouldn't notice how badly they were trembling. His second-hand shoes squeaked softly against the floor, and the borrowed jacket he wore felt too big, too foreign, like it belonged to a version of him he wasn't sure he deserved to become. The audience murmured, curious. A few leaned forward, others exchanged skeptical glances. Miguel kept his eyes low, trying to ignore the knot tightening in his chest. Then Simon Cowell sat up straighter, eyebrow raised, studying him with a mix of interest and caution. "Tell us your name," Simon said. His voice was calm but sharp enough to slice through Miguel's fear. Miguel, from Cebu, Philippines, he managed, swallowing hard. I live here in Dublin now. And what will you sing for us today? Another judge asked gently, noticing his nerves. Miguel almost whispered, Elvis. Can't help falling in love. A few audience members chuckled softly. Elvis again? Another impersonator? Miguel heard the doubt, felt it crawl across his skin. But he closed his eyes, ignoring the sting. He didn't come to imitate. He came to survive. The music began. Soft, distant, like a memory drifting in from across oceans. Miguel opened his mouth, and the first note trembled out, quiet, uncertain. But then something familiar stirred inside him, the echo of Cebu nights, his mother's sacrifices, the cold Dublin streets where he sang his heart out in secret. His voice grew stronger, richer, filled with a rawness that did not try to copy Elvis but honored him with genuine emotion. The audience fell silent, completely silent. One judge's eyes widened, another covered her mouth as if she couldn't believe what she was hearing. Halfway through the performance, Miguel poured everything into a soaring note that cracked with so much feeling it sent a shiver through the entire room. A woman in the audience wiped away tears. One of the judges turned her chair slightly, overwhelmed and shaking her head in disbelief. Then Simon Cowell stood up abruptly, his hands clenched into fists, his face lit with an energy nobody expected. Unbelievable, he shouted, his voice echoing across the stage. Absolutely unbelievable. The crowd erupted. People rose to their feet, cheering, clapping, shouting Miguel's name like he was already a star. Miguel froze, unable to move, tears blurring the lights around him. His heart thundered, his breath caught, and for the first time since leaving Cebu, he felt truly seen, truly heard. Ireland had just met its Filipino Elvis, and the world suddenly felt possible. Backstage felt warmer than the stage, but Miguel was shaking too hard to notice. The applause from the audience still echoed through the hall, bouncing off the walls like a heartbeat that refused to slow down. The bright lights of the studio had faded, replaced by softer bulbs lining the hallway, but everything still felt unreal, like he might suddenly wake up back in their small Dublin apartment with peeling paint and wonder if this had only been a dream. Before he could take another step, his mother rushed toward him, her cleaning uniform still damp, her hair messy from running. She didn't say anything at first. She simply pulled him into her arms with a strength she didn't usually have after long shifts. Miguel felt her body shaking. He wasn't sure if she was crying or laughing or both. He buried his face in her shoulder. The smell of disinfectant clung to her clothes, familiar and comforting. "Ma," he whispered, voice cracking, "did you see them?" They stood up, everyone stood up. His mother cupped his face in her hands and pressed her forehead to his. Her tears dripped onto his cheeks as she whispered in Cebuano, "Anak, you did it. You made them feel what I've always felt when you sing." His chest tightened again, this time with a kind of joy so sharp it almost hurt. One of the judges appeared at the end of the hallway, wiping the corners of her eyes with a trembling hand. She walked toward them slowly, still overwhelmed. "Miguel," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion, "you didn't just perform. You told your story through every second of that song." She placed a hand gently on his shoulder, her expression a mix of pride and disbelief. "You reminded all of us why we love music." Miguel tried to thank her, but the words tangled in his throat. He looked down, overwhelmed, but she squeezed his arm reassuringly, as if telling him it was okay to feel everything at once. Then Simon Cowell appeared. He walked slowly, not with the usual sharp, intimidating stride he showed on stage, but with a rare softness. His eyes weren't fierce or analytical anymore, they were warm, reflective, almost emotional. Miguel stiffened, unsure how to react. Simon stopped in front of him and let out a small breath, as though he hadn't quite recovered from the audition himself. "Miguel," he began quietly, "I've heard thousands of Elvis performances. But what you did out there," he paused, searching for the right words. "You didn't imitate him. You carried his soul in your own way. That is something only real artists can do." Miguel blinked, stunned. His mother covered her mouth, trying to hold back a sob. Simon placed a hand on Miguel's shoulder. "You're not just a Filipino Elvis," he said firmly. "You're a world-class singer. And today, you made all of Ireland feel that." Miguel's lips trembled. Tears streamed down his face. Tears of relief, exhaustion, and hope. His mother held him tighter, burying her face against his cheek. In that hallway filled with warm lights, echoes of applause, and the scent of his mother's work-worn clothes, Miguel realized something powerful. He wasn't chasing a dream anymore. He was living it.